Hey there, goblins. Welcome to another episode of Goblin Salvage Rites. Today, we're going to be talking about something very special. Starfinder. It's here. It's pretty queer.
Finish that sentence.
Pretty queer. And we're going to be talking about...
Check out the artwork. It's super queer.
That cat, man.
That fucking Elton John cat in space.
I love the cat so much. Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park with the cat. So today we're going to be talking about the first book in the Starfinder series, which is
Galaxy Guide.
very interesting.
Not a player guide.
It's not a player guide.
Not a GM guide.
It's a galaxy guide.
It's a galaxy guide. It's an introductory, sort of like a primer for what we're about to receive.
So for context, if you're listening out of sequence or whatever, the core rulebook has not come out yet. The core rulebook comes out in Gen Con, which is in like 2 or 3 months.
A month or 2 or 3 away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This book came out maybe 2 weeks ago, I want to say.
A lot more than that.
Really?
It's just within the last couple of months.
Yeah. I think at least
it's been sitting on my shelf waiting to be read that entire time too.
Yeah. We've just been so focused on like Pathfinder books and episodes we've already kind of planned on doing that we wanted to get to this as soon as we possibly could. And this is kind of when we're doing it.
Yeah, I think this is a fair lead-in time for the next one to come down. So I'm excited to sort of like be slightly shifting our focus from Pathfinder just for a bit to Starfinder.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a palate cleanser for me. It's also a chance for me to decide whether I want to, go balls deep in a screaming hog with this new setting. Is it just Pathfinder in space, or is it its own thing? And those two distinctions are important to me.
I don't think this book will actually allow us to find out just yet.
Yeah.
Though we really have to wait for the core rulebook to hit.
It's making promises, though.
It is making very big promises.
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, let's talk about what
we played. Apparently, you guys like this part of the episodes. I had no idea.
We got so many complaints that we didn't do it last time because I was cutting for time. And
I'm sorry.
I'm happy that we can re-include into the episode. It will stay a permanent part of GSR.
If only like date night was as easy as this. Wife of 10 years, love of my life. I want to talk about my D&D game last Thursday on date night.
Totally.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Don't do that. Learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, learn from his mistakes. Play Delta Green with your wife. Bam! Fucking.
So we started playing Delta Green recently.
Yeah.
Because we're sort of in between games, campaign systems at this point. We're buying time for you to get ready with Pray for Death.
Yeah, I'm prepping Pray for Death right now. I bought the VTT. I have the book that Eric gave me. I'm crunching through it.
Let you borrow.
I'm borrowing it. Yeah. I'll get my own copy one day.
Which is different from the NPC core book that you gave me. Let me borrow.
Dude. Okay, we might have to make a trade. Who knows? But yeah, so we played Delta Green.
Delta Green is it's
weird.
It's weird. It's cool. It's cinematic. The dice are a total afterthought as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
But there's something really cool about the idea of only leveling up when you fail.
I don't even.
I love that.
I care not about the leveling up. Honestly, like I said in like one of our episodes prior that when you strip away the rules lawyer in me and the crunch master gets stripped away as well.
Sure.
And all that's left is pure role play.
It is, yeah. But in terms of the mechanics, by failing to do things, which generally means you have a lower score, it encourages you to make more extreme decisions. It's like built into the theme. If you're just doing everyday conservative decision making and hedging your bets, you're not going to get anywhere mechanically in the system. And it works because this is a Cthulhu type environment we're working in here.
You slowly build up your character skills until they die.
Yeah. Which hasn't happened yet after 2 sessions. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
So
3 sessions.
That was 3 sessions?
Yeah, that was session 3. Yeah, so we got a couple leads. Basically, there is a supernatural fungus that is infecting people and killing them very, very quickly.
Yep.
And we had 2 major leads. One was one of the people that had recently interacted with the fungus went to the hospital because one of their other friends died at the hospital. So we all walked into the hospital about to like do some research. And I kind of screwed the pooch a little. I don't know if I screwed the pooch.
A little bit.
Maybe. We'll see. I basically was like, all right, we got to lock
this. You got the whole hospital on lockdown.
I got to lock this hospital
before you
down.
said like 3 words.
That's true. So basically I walked inside and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to the morgue ASAP because
I'm from the CDC and there's a problem. I need to talk to the morgue.
Literally, I am from the CDC. So I go down to the morgue and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to a manager. I need to see one of these bodies. And they're like, sir, you need a subpoena for that? And I'm like, we ain't got time for a subpoena.
That's all right. We're authorized.
Yeah, well, we don't have time for a subpoena.
We were not authorized.
Let me talk to your manager. I went full Karen. And then I sat in front of the manager and I loved how Jacques played it off. He was like super bored. And I'm like, hey, listen, there's a real serious infectious disease issue with one of your dead bodies, and we need to take a look at it right now. And he's just like, fine. He opens the door and he's like, hey, Janet, hit the emergency lockdown button.
Meanwhile, I'm upstairs with a couple other party members.
Getting ready to do an investigation. So we're like splitting the scene, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn it. Okay, well, honestly, that's going to help stop the spread as much as possible. Like the lockdown, them locking it down and it not spreading in the hospital just yet is enough for me to be like,
one of the basic premises of this entire game is you do your damnedest to stay off the radar. One line in and we're on lockdown.
I mean,
it was gorgeous. I loved it.
I mean,
it was a great learning game for me.
For me, it's like my character is not only trying to, my character's from the CDC. My goal, I swore an oath. I'm a doctor to do no harm.
Sure.
And my goal, which is hilarious because of what comes later. So my character's goal walking in there wasn't so much to find out what's happening as to stop the spread of this fungus in a giant place full of people. So by going in there and saying, hey, lock down, I accomplished my personal goal of saving people's lives.
Right.
And I might have jeopardized our greater goal. Who knows?
Our lives? We're so going to get wasted, and then we're going to be showing up at St. Peter's Gates, and I'm going to be like, this asshole doesn't go in there. He takes the escalator.
I saved lives. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one going. Well, no, that's not true. Because later, I gassed a child. So we went to our other lead.
Yes, this is that kind of game.
That lead was like a mother and her newborn son. They were the widows of a police officer who was one of the first people infected by this disease and killed by it. Right. And we're talking to her and she's like emaciated, but she doesn't know it.
Something's clearly not right. Like this is true detective levels of fucked up.
It's peak Nurgle. Honestly, it's peak Nurgle.
It is.
And the little baby who was born days ago was already walking around. Yeah. And he has like
like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old.
Yeah. He has like pustules growing out of his face. His eyes are bugging out. And inside of one of his eyes is a galaxy.
I failed my sanity check.
Yes.
So I didn't see that. You guys
saw
all made it.
And then you blinked and you convinced yourself that you weren't seeing it.
And then every one of you guys made your sanity checks.
Yes.
And so I'm just sitting here going, all right. Left the room to go take a look at the nursery. And it was a 4-year-old's bedroom or something like that. Yeah.
So long story short, Eric is talking to the wife upstairs. We're checking the whole house for clues and stuff like that.
For Nurgle traps.
And I also kind of made a little mustard gas little mixer, a little cocktail in the bathroom just in case something went down. And then Eric he was like sweet talking the wife. And then all of a sudden he's like, and you're also evil. And I was standing there and I'm like, no, I don't have the bomb on me. I don't have the goods.
I totally didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I was trying to give you the signal that, the jig is up. We need to do this.
Yeah.
And you were trying to give me the signal of the jig can't be up because I don't have what we need to do the jig. It was a wonderfully, desperately, awfully comedic moment.
Exactly. It was awesome.
And so we just went with plan B, which was caving her skull in.
Yeah, you guys beat her up, and the kid walked in, and he started doing crazy shit. I ran downstairs, grabbed the gas bomb, ran back upstairs, and said, everyone hold your breath. And then I gassed the kid to death in like one fell swoop.
Yeah.
And then...
And the kid is all like a Cthulhu, so it's not really a child. It's just like looking like a child.
Yeah, it is a newborn.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that was different than Pathfinder How?
Yeah, that was actually, good point. We have cell phones. That's how.
There it is.
Yeah, I found her cell phone, and before I could get you to convince her to give me the password for the cell phone, for the husband's cell phone, we fought her. So that's never going to happen.
So that was delightful.
And then, and I played Bloodlords.
Yeah.
We're fighting a hag in Bloodlords, killed the hag. The whole cookie house melted, and we had to run out as the building was melting in front of us.
Robert, this is the same exact story we just told.
Oh, shit, you're right. I killed an old lady in the basement. Well, this one, before it was in the attic, this one's in the basement.
Oh, you're right. That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did kill a child in the attic, actually.
Mm-hmm. Robert, this is the exact same story we just told.
Damn, you're right. But this child was like a child, but it was a skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, come play with me and my shadows.
That's not
fun.
creepy at all.
And then what was hilarious is because we're all playing undead, the shadows started like patty caking with us and doing 0 damage. Because we're immune to negative damage because we're all undead.
Patty caking you?
You know, patty cake where you play
I know exactly
cake.
what it is.
Yeah,
He was literally doing that?
No, not
That's not
literally.
like a euphemism for something else?
No, it's a euphemism for attacking us and doing no damage.
Got it. Okay, got it. Yeah.
But they were doing,
because that would be awesome if they literally just came hilarious. Up.
But
Cat's cradle, motherfucker.
They made us enfeebled, which was reducing our strength. So I think we could have died if our strength went to 0. But yeah, so it was basically a bunch of shadows in a house, and then really scary hag at the bottom that we kind of just toasted. The whole party. I was hitting her for big damage, big dick damage. And she was attacking everyone else in the room. And I'm the only, like, I literally walked out of that fight with no damage. And everyone else was at like half health. And I'm the guy who's supposed to be taking damage.
Because you use your free action to go, hey, lady, big dick damage over here. Pay attention to my big dick damage over here.
Literally. I threw a haiku at her
it's
and
the
everything.
Biggest dick damage in this entire game. It's huge.
The biggest. So, yeah, I like threw a haiku at her and everything and nothing.
You even spoke poetry to her?
Well, that's all my character does is speak.
What a hag.
Got him.
Did I tell you that I'm running a PBP, play by post?
Yes.
On our Discord using our setting that we're doing month by month.
I remember now because I got mad when you made a bunch of channels and didn't do the
permissions thing?
The permissions properly.
I always fuck the permissions up. Yeah.
Discord is honestly kind of a pain in the ass.
It really is.
It is
yeah. But it's the least stupid of all the platforms I've played on so far.
Yeah, 100.
But yeah, we like over the months we've been doing the different biomes and filling out our map, our setting, and we're focusing on the desert one. And if you remember, right, the desert one is the one with the desert kaiju. There's about 6 to 8 of them, limited numbers, and they all have these arcane fortresses on their back, and they just sort of wander around in the desert. And illusions are sentient. They're real. They're corporeal. So they run around and do malevolent things. So if you imagine like the Matrix, but instead of, the machines, it's sentient illusions, you get something similar going on. So we've been doing that. Gosh, we have 4 players now, all of them goblins on the Discord. And I think we've been playing for about a week or so now.
Okay, cool.
And it's pretty cool. It's heavy on the inventor class, heavy on the wizard class. There are teams and squads of military folk in this arcane war citadel, and they all have whatever their primary class, and their archetype is inventor. And everybody has to be some kind of a technical know-how. They have to be able to know how to work the widgets and gadgetry in this arcane war fortress. They just do it from different perspectives. So you have the witch inventor, and they can hex things, make machinery break down. They can, do the inverse. You have like your fighter inventors. You can imagine what that plays out like. And the people who actually run this entire thing, this whole thing, the president in charge, they're the wizard inventors, and they handle all the arcane shit because illusions. So it's a lot of fun now introducing the players to what it means to be a desert halfling in our setting, a desert Isaki in our setting, a ratman, a desert goblin in our setting. One of you mooks decided to play a goblin, and I was a little reluctant at first, but this is I'm really glad he did because this is an excellent kind of road test.
Why would you be reluctant?
Because our goblins in this setting aren't, the goofy little Tasmanian devil goblins you see in Rise of the Rune Lords or really anywhere else in the setting pre-2nd edition. They're different. They're thoughtful. They're ancient. They go all the way back to the beginning of civilization, and all the new races kind of like they came up many, 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 many eons later, or whatever the time period is later. So the goblins kind of in the GSR thing, they're not your typical goblins. And how do you explain that to people, especially when they're playing one, not knowing all that information?
Right.
So this is sort of like a, hey, let's explore the setting together. What does it mean to be a halfling in this setting, a goblin in this setting, an Isaki in this setting? Another one's playing a Nephilim, succubi kind of themed. and that's the 4-person party right now.
Wow.
So
no normal Ancestries.
no, which is great because this is,
I guess the goblins.
you and I are trying to keep it weird, put our money where our mouth is.
Normal.
So the setting is supposed to be weird.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, it's fun. It's a lot of fun so far, and it's forcing me to like write faster and write faster and write faster.
Okay. That's
so
cool.
yeah, I can't wait to bring that back to you. So unmute the damn server and
I'll think about it.
And take a couple of paragraphs with you.
I just, how distracted I get.
I have no idea after 9 years.
Well, I get pretty
And
distracted.
countless hours of me jamming at the table.
And when there's constant notifications coming from my Discord,
I hate it.
it's pretty hard to focus on actual work.
Yeah, there's certain channels in some of my Discords where I mute them all and then I check in like once every couple of weeks just to see what's going on. But yeah, that's what we've been playing. Did some Rune Lords also and Play by Post. That's coming along as well.
Edgewatch?
Oh, fuck me. I ran Edgewatch.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So I'm going to suck up a little bit more camera time here. This was one of the biggest sessions we played so far.
About the biggest sessions.
I just do. Yeah. So the short version is I set everybody down and played, Paint It Black, a cover. That was our intro song. I did a different cover for the exit song. And everything in the middle was taking the many, many, many dozens of NPCs that we've been encountering for the past 3 years and 12 levels and calling them down to a list of 18, 13 per character. And I had Ben, I had Jacques, I had Nick, all roll a D6 percentile and a D4 together. What that did was that broke up each of their batch of 6 so that the D6 says which of these 6 is the shithead traitor who's going to stab you in the back. They're going to put their lives on the line to try to end yours. It's that level of a villainy. Mm-hmm. And then the percentile was to, what was the second one? To figure out who is your primary ally, the one who will put their security, their good name, their reputation, their lives on the line to have your mission succeed. And then that was 2 out of the 6 for each of them. And the others were the bad guy who's going to sell your ass for a bent copper if he gets a chance, but he's not going to put himself in danger to do it. And then the ally version of that. And then there's a bunch of wild cards in there and so on and so forth. So, and there are 3 victims as well. So 3 victims who all suffer the same sort of atrocities that you guys did to get to this point in the first place. And every single one of these 18 NPCs, y'all have been encountering them since basically level 1. So these are known quantities. 3 of them are going to fuck you, and you don't know which one they are.
That's cool.
3 of them are steadfast allies that'll go to the mattresses for you. You don't know who they are.
Go to the mattresses?
Yeah.
What is that from?
It's a gangster mafia thing.
Oh, okay.
When you
Never
go to
heard
the
that
mattresses, you're going to war with the families.
Huh.
Yeah. It's like everybody goes into like a room and it has a bunch of mattresses in it. And then that's where you sleep until, the fighting is done.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody's kind of trying to figure out who's on this fucking list. And if they're on the list, are they good guys or bad guys? Are they like really bad guys? Or I can be careful around them. And as long as I keep my eye on them, that's fine. So that was cool. I got my curated list, and that's going to basically shape the rest of the campaign all the way up to level 20.
Cool.
So that's what last Edgewatch was. It was pretty cool. And we're doing the big 2-part fight with the Herald of Norgorber, the stabbing beast, giant scorpion, who only shows up to help Norgorberites, pull off great heists, murder people, and steal things, and so on and so forth. So that was the Edgewatch in a nutshell. That was this past weekend. And that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So now what we've been playing. Can we talk about Starfinder now?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. I think the first question we need to answer, Goblins, is would you buy this book?
Yes. Next question.
All right. Who is this book for?
Everyone. Next question. As a player, this book is valuable to me because half of it is crunch.
Half of it?
Yeah.
No.
If you open this book to the middle, the backgrounds start. I think it's around page 95 out of 180.
Okay, Goblins. Do backgrounds count as crunch?
If there is math in it, it's crunch.
Fine.
I'm not saying it's like the calculus of the crunch offerings, but if you open it up to the backgrounds and then take a look at like the thickness of the book.
You're right.
I wasn't expecting it. It's a primer on what's going on in the Starfinder universe, and half of it I don't even know if it's good crunch or not, but it's crunch. It has archetypes, it has backgrounds, it has feats, it has ancestries, it has abilities. It's got it all. So I was super surprised to find that. So as a player, yes. As a GM, yes. And as a GM, double yes, because it does some cool things with, there's different ways you can use this book. Not all GMs will use this the same way. And here's some tricks and tools to figure out how to dial your game in to the type of sci-fi subgenre you want to play in. And then it gave example locations, example planets, example bad guys for each of those. It was just really fucking smart.
This is
Pathfinder didn't do
effectively, well, kinda.
Not in core books.
So this is the Pathfinder World Guide in so many words.
Sure.
So the difference here is that
But the core guide didn't say
the World Guide.
the core guide, the world guide, didn't break it down by
Not the World Guide. What's the other one? Lost Omens.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, this one. So this is the first expansionary book to come out for Pathfinder 2nd edition. And it came out very quickly after Pathfinder 2nd edition.
That was literally the first LO book that came out.
Exactly. This is what they've basically done is taken the Starfinder book. They made the Starfinder version of this and they released it before the core rulebook came out.
Yeah. Is that the same size? Just a hair longer.
I think it's a bit bigger. It's definitely a bit bigger. They've clearly learned, but obviously
5% of that is crunch.
Oh,
almost half of this is crunch.
I love how you just
That's the huge
remember the
difference.
percentages.
I'm totally just throwing numbers out there that don't mean anything. But if you look at that, it's all lore with a little bit of crunch here and there. And it's usually at the end of the sections.
So I think
it was just a huge design shift from that to this.
Yeah. I remember
this also didn't come out before the core, and this one did. So there's different stuff going on in the life cycle.
But the comparison here is that there are both books tell you about the setting pretty significantly.
Yeah.
The front end of this book, which is where I think what you're going to spend a lot of time talking about, is how to play a game, how to play a different flavor of game in this. I know you would have loved that.
Yeah.
But and then once we get into the factions and stuff like that, there's an archetype for every faction in this book. And
that was a really smart move.
There aren't ancestries because those ancestries are found in the book right next to it, the Lost Omens character guide. So it sounds like they kind of took the character guide and the Lost Omens world guide for Starfinder and kind of smushed them into one book.
I didn't think about it that way, but you might be absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, because the only thing missing here is more ancestries.
Yeah.
And how they're important.
And the character guide had Hellknights. And this book has Hellknights.
Bob's your uncle. There you go.
Yep.
It's so
Mary's your aunt.
Effectively, this Starfinder book is Lost Omens World Guide and the Lost Omens Character Guide kind of squished together and made for Starfinder before the core book even comes out.
Yeah.
Which I find really interesting. Let's talk about that for a second before we jump into what's in the book. I know we're trying to go fast here because this is our first impression. We haven't really dug into this book, even though it's been on our shelves for a little while now. Why do you think they did this? Was it just a printing thing?
I think there were several reasons. One, obviously, they want to see what they can sell. They kind of want to throw the balloon up in the air.
Gauge demand.
Yeah. I think another thing is when Starfinder came out for first edition, I don't know if you remember, but that was a big fucking book. It was 400 pages, something like that. It was a big chunky monkey. And it was intimidating as all hell. And it was a sort of familiar rule system for those of us first edition players, but it was different enough that it felt like learning a whole new system.
It was different enough to make me hate it.
Yeah. And it's just that book. I love it. I love the production. I love reading through it, even though I don't play it. It's a really, really well put together
520
TTRPG.
pages.
It's just huge.
Yeah.
So I think by giving us a smaller bite of Starfinder to kind of get us ready for the player core, not the full core, but the player core. Okay, that's a slightly bigger bite.
Right.
And I can do that as a player. And then a month or so later, it's going to be the GM core. Okay, that's a slightly bigger bite, but I don't have to do it because I'm just a player.
So it's a lot of eating an elephant bite for bite.
This is foreplay.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Foreplay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's a pretty appropriate. And it also kind of creates a little bit of hype. They kind of tease, by throwing the cart before the horse, they kind of tease what's going to be in the core rule.
Yeah. And it also says, that 500 pages we're about to drop on you in a couple months between 2 books, 650 to 700 if you include the Alien Bestiary that's going to come out after that. This tells you that there's no one way to use all that material we're about to drop on your head. I'm going to show you how to run Starfinder as though you were playing through Blade Runner, how to run it as though you were playing through Alien, how to run it as though you're playing through fucking Firefly or Dungeons and Dragons in space. It gives you like the kitchen sink experience that we either love or hate about Pathfinder, and then creates a really elegant way, in a smart way, in a believable way, to keep that kitchen sink option in space.
Yeah, I remember hearing, so part of doing research on this book was just me downloading the lore of Starfinder. And the best way I've heard it put was Pathfinder is a kitchen sink setting of all of your favorite fantasy tropes rolled into one world where that kind of barely makes any cohesive sense. Starfinder is the same thing for science fiction and science fantasy tropes.
It can be. But the cool thing about space and space travel is unless you have like instantaneous travel, then you can believably have entire sectors that are just without resources. They're destitute, which means they don't have access to the spacecrafts, which means their culture kind of turns into dueling banjos in space. And you can have a look and feel that isn't shiny, silver, super high-tech fantasy where everything's AI, robots, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's ways to do it. And, Pathfinder was a little hand-wavy with some of that. It makes a lot more sense in this one to me. And we'll get to that with that specific chapter.
Well, then let's jump into it. Let's jump into the beginning of the book where we talk about the backstory of what has happened in Starfinder up until now, and then the new stuff that has happened since that download.
Gotcha. So anybody who's ever read a Pathfinder book, especially the Lost Omens, you know that they have these ridiculously long timelines. Like, this is what happened in the last 4,000 years. And you're like, fuck me, can we just get to the stuff that is pertinent, that matters? The Starfinder setting, the history, goes back 325 years.
I love that.
Wow, that is not a long time at all.
The gap as a storytelling element is wonderful.
Yeah, it definitely creates a frontier Wild West kind of a feel just right out the gate. Because, the vacuums of power haven't been filled yet.
Exactly.
So that's that. Anyhow.
They're in the process of filling, actually.
Short version, brass tacks, there's this event called The Gap, where it's this galaxy-wide, maybe even universe-wide occurrence, phenomena, where everybody's memory is just wiped. And Golarion, the planet, no longer exists. Nobody remembers what happens before the gap, supposedly.
It's important to know that, like, the gap doesn't erase your current knowledge and your current feelings about things or people, but it gets rid of any specific memories about past. So you kind of remember vague generalities about what happened in the gap. Like, generally speaking, there was a society and we had this culture, but we don't know why we had this culture. We don't know the specific touchstones. I thought that was really interesting.
I really enjoyed that too. And then we move on to a god who said, well, people in this setting need to move around. So I'm going to create like hyperspace and make people move around in ships.
And it can only be accessed through technology and not through magic. That's an important distinction.
Okay. I didn't know that was a 100% true statement. I was wondering about that myself. Yeah. So if you think of it like an ocean with ships and buoys, there are these drift beacons that hang out in space, and people fly their shippy ships through space and follow those beacons. Absalom Station is one of the big beacons. So that's why everybody's coming here. This is Rome out there in the galaxy.
Yeah.
All roads lead to it. Fast forward. So like within the first 5 years of the timeline, the Starfinder Society forms.
Yep.
5 years. That's not very long. Wow. How did we get here? Where are we? We're in a space station 5 years later. All right, listen, motherfuckers. Here is our hierarchy. You're going to go there. You're going to go there. Come back and report.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the history of the Starfinder Society. It was literally just a person with money who was just like, we don't know a lot anymore, so we need to go find out a lot.
that sense of urgency is so cool because
Yeah.
I never got that in the Pathfinder Society.
Right.
In the Pathfinder Society, it was like a bunch of trust fund babies just trying to kill time.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, it's kind of like, no, we got a bunch of lizard people on the outside of the rim, and they want to eat our livers. We need to go see what we can do about that. You know, there's a bunch of Aslanti Nazis on the other rim, the other side of the other rim, and they want to, you know, carve their little swastikas into our foreheads. We need to do something about that.
Oh, and there's also the Swarm, who's going to devour us all.
Right. And they're non-discriminate. So there's sort of like this, guys, we're Starfinders, and that's not just something to put on your resume. Go fucking get out there and do something because we're not going to live another 50 years if we don't start solving some mysteries. I appreciated that tremendously. You keep going, and essentially there's a couple of different empires. One is the lizard folk in space. Another one are
They're in a different system.
In a different system.
And they got access to space travel, faster than light space travel, much later until people in the Golarion system met them and was like, hey, yeah, this technology exists, by the way.
And then you have the space Aslanti. They are yet another civilization. Both of them want to eat our livers, at least for the first part of the timeline. Things happen. Those two civilizations go to war. There's a planet. Turns out it's an egg for some Cthulhu outsider.
Our Pluto was actually just an egg.
Yeah, that hatched. Sent psychic shockwaves out through the galaxy.
Sharded psych waves.
Sharded brain power. And that caused a bunch of problems and new abilities and feats to pop up on people's character sheets everywhere.
Thing that basically happened.
Yeah.
Right. So we had Oopsie Daisy, we don't have memories, and then we reach out to we get fast and light travel, we meet the lizard people, we go to war with the lizard people, we then meet the
Aslanti.
And we're like, hey, what's up, Aslanti? And the Aslanti are like, fuck you. And they just kill anyone who tries to talk to them. And so we know very little about them. And then the swarm happens, and we have a swarm war, and then we're like, Tyranids. Legally distinct Tyranids, oh no. But also Tyranids, there are a little group of Tyranids who've broken off of the hive mind and are
you
like
can play them.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And then there was like a star plague, and now a literal god has hatched from a planet that had witches on it, and the witches were praying to it, and now there was another god that was corrupting the planet god, trying to turn it evil, and it almost worked, but then it didn't, probably because of an adventure. And now we have a baby god on the edge of our solar system, and we're like, what are we doing with you, baby?
It's not just any kind of god. It's an eldritch deity from beyond time and space.
Exactly.
And that always goes well in the stories.
Exactly. And that's where we're at, like 300 years later.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, those two civilizations, instead of fighting us, they're fighting each other. And then the lizard civilization said, hey, you guys over there in Starfinder land, let's ally. And that's where we start at the current timeline.
It's important to know that the truce was formed because of a mutual threat, which was the swarm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I know there's something about like the first ones that are coming back, and I thought that was a trigger for the truce. But whatever the reason, we're best friends with the Lizzies.
We're not best friends. We have like a.
But it's a playable character.
It is a playable character, but we have like a very loose truce with them. It's like they just tried to invade us, but it was a Cold War because we were both too chicken shit to go to each other's systems and try to do an invasion.
Yeah.
So it was like
our coalition was of equal power with our empire.
Yeah, it was a border war.
So that's everything we just said fits in this sidebar. Bloop. That's it. Like half a page gets you the history of the Starfinder setting.
In like one bullet point sentences. Yeah. And then they have a bunch of paragraphs about what just happened, like the new deity becoming born and stuff like that.
Yeah, the first edition Starfinder moves into the second edition canon.
Exactly.
And where are we now kind of stuff.
Second edition canon.
And then we get Elton John in space.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love our boy.
I'm still not 100% sold. Oh, and there's also a giant system map.
Yeah.
On the artwork yet.
Huh, really?
Yeah, the whole Art Deco thing that second edition did for Pathfinder, they kept it for the cover, but they didn't bring it all in here. And I don't know.
What
I'm
do you
not used to it
mean?
yet.
What do you mean they didn't bring it in here?
The artwork for Pathfinder Second Edition is Art Deco, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm not a professional artist.
All like the hard angles and squared off bits.
Okay.
With big runes and big letters. Very geometric in presentation.
Okay.
Instead of smooth lines. See how sharp all those lines are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, to me, sharp and stuff like that. That's very science fiction. You know what I mean?
Okay. I always thought of like smooth science fiction, saucers and the gray men with the round heads. I guess there's a lot of different ways you can go through it. Even Star Wars had a lot of rounded stuff, not necessarily sharp.
I think it basically depends on the genre.
Okay.
So when we look at sci-fi in one of the sections we'll talk about, which is like cyborg, you know what I mean? In that dark, what do you call it? What's the name of the fucking genre? It's like the first thing that pops up under the dystopian adventures. Like in, they all love brutalism. Brutalism's the big thing, and brutalism's all about sharp corners and big stone.
Entropy on steroids.
Yeah, entropy. What do you mean?
Entropy on steroids. Everything dies, everything falls apart. There is no optimism. There's no light.
Well, yeah, brutalism.
You were describing the Borg.
Yeah,
That's what that is.
Yeah. Like architecturally, brutalism is about efficiency and.
Brutalism is a type of architectural theory. I didn't know that.
Yeah. What?
Brutalism. This is the first time I've heard that used in.
Are you kidding me?
In an architectural context.
No, there's like a whole generation of brutalism all over America.
I'm going to look that up when I get home.
Yeah. Okay. So brutalism in an architectural space is like big, chunky concrete buildings with hard angles that look like fortresses, but they're actually it was born from like the Soviet in the Soviet era.
Okay.
And
like it's bunkery and blocky.
Bunkery and blocky. It's a architectural style that focuses on efficiency. Brutal, almost brutal efficiency.
Okay.
That's why it's called brutalism.
Wow, that is nuts.
It's found like all over America because it took off really big in America, but also really big in the Eastern Bloc in like different ways.
What a great name.
Yeah. Brutalism is pretty cool. There's a really great YouTube channel that I follow that talks about science fiction and architecture together.
Yeah.
So the next section of this book focuses on 5 or 6 different ways to run Starfinder, different genres, different flavors of science fiction that you could run.
Yeah. So like in Pathfinder, if you're running in fucking Garund in Alkenstar, you've got a Western feel. That's the Western part of the setting. If you decide you want to go, all Frankenstein and Dracula, you go to Ustalov and you're kind of locked into that landmass, right? Well, there are many, 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 many different planets, and the planets they're all the genres. If you want the Gothic genre, you go to the Gothic planet, and there's a string of them, so on and so forth. So the first one is, do you want to run a dystopian adventure? Mega corporations competing to outdo one another with rampant technological advances, et cetera, kind of like Shadowrun in space, kind of cyberpunk in space.
It is cyberpunk. That's the word I was looking for. Cyberpunk.
There we are.
Yeah, it's cyberpunk as fuck.
So that you can do so, and this particular section gives you specific planets on the map where they're more appropriate to the style of game.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really adore is right up front, before they get into those examples, they say, here are some adventure hooks, specifically how you might want to handle encounter mode, exploration mode, and downtime mode.
Yes.
I want that in every Pathfinder book going forward.
I would love that so much.
Yeah. So just to read one example, Dystopian Adventures. Adventure hooks. A shady handler hires the party to steal powerful tech from a rival at a nightlife spot. Super generic cyberpunks, right?
Yeah.
A shopping trip turns into an ambush. A megacorp built its empires on harmful tech, and it's up to the heroes to stop them from hurting more people. So that's the whole conceit, right? Encounter mode. Use humanoid and robot adversaries and include tech items as rewards. For an outlaw campaign, pit heroes against bounty hunters, rivals, or dangerous beasts. Exploration mode. Urban terrain creates its own challenges. Crowds and traffic might be hazards. Vehicles speed up travel. Tech surveillance is widespread. Downtime mode. Annoying ads are everywhere. Malware lurks in every infosphere. Characters often have hidden agendas, and celebrations can easily break down into violence. I did not describe Star Trek. Star Trek is a different kind of game where you would use the encounter, exploration, and downtime modes differently. So each of these genre expectations they set up in this for the first chapter, it kind of gives you sort of like here's a starting point, how you might want to consider the 3 modes of play in order to get that look and feel cemented. And then you just adventure the way you always do in the past. So that's the dystopian one. Akiton is a planet. It's super cyberpunky. Aposte is a planet. It's super cyberpunky. Dagox 4 is a planet. It falls into that genre. The Diaspora, that's straight up the Expanse. That's what that is. Very noir in space. Preluria, Verces, it's just a series of settings where in Pathfinder, if you wanted to do the Gothic thing, you got used to love.
You also have Hellraiser. You've got which is pretty similar.
Hellraiser?
Yeah.
Nightall?
Zonkothan?
Yeah, Nightall.
Yeah. That's pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, Gothic horror versus like body horror is how I would describe that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely broken the horror. So
Yeah.
so 1.5 to 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll concede on that. But on here, I just rattled off like 4 or 5 different planets.
Exactly.
With the space around it.
And each of those planets have their own like version of this that they talk about in a couple paragraphs.
Yeah, just a slight twist on it's cyberpunk, but 5 degrees to the left. This other planet, cyberpunk, but 5 degrees to the right. So on and so forth.
Next up, we have high tech.
High tech adventures. This is the silver original, I guess, Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
The original. It's super high tech. So campaign starters. Adventurers explore the ruins of an ancient starfaring civilization. Heroes seek out a powerful tech device. Artificial life forms search for their place in the universe. Adventure hooks. A mysterious starship crashes into a planet. Buried technology stirs, causing havoc on the surface. A village of machines hire adventurers to protect their treasures. A factory creating dangerous tech malfunctions. This is straight up original Star Trek here.
To me, this is like classic science fiction.
Kind of is, yeah, like the 70s era sci-fi. I'm getting a lot of Asimov out of this.
Yes,
Star Trek.
exactly.
Yeah. Not Frank Herbert. That'll be later. So how do you do encounter mode in a high-tech adventure? Well, dangerous security measures, robots, and tech traps are everywhere. Enemies have impressive firepower. Treasures might be powerful Magitech relics or cutting-edge tech. It's kind of sort of the same in Cyberpunk, but really not really.
No.
What about exploration
There's hope
mode?
in high-tech adventures.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction. Exploration mode. High-tech adventures might explore Magitech ruins or investigate dangerous industrial facilities. Camera surveillance and biometric locks are everywhere. High-tech adventures. Downtime mode. A character might seek new tech knowledge or spend time tinkering with new devices. They might browse the infosphere or relax by playing a vid game. It's different, but it's using the same core rule set.
So the
I don't remember that in Pathfinder.
Yeah, we don't really.
At least not in the core book.
The other 4 themes are fantasy, which is like.
That's probably the one I wouldn't use.
Yeah, it's literally like there's a planet that's literally a planet of dragons, but with laser beams.
Triaxis, I think.
Yeah. War Torn, which is to me the
that's the cool one for me.
Open that one up. To me, that one is like the that War Torn is like the Warhammer almost.
Yeah.
Of the settings. Where,
highly militarized to overwhelming forces going against each other, and we're here.
And kind of wearing each other down. You know, it's very, in the grim darkness of the far future, there's only war. Yeah. That's the tagline for Warhammer. So
if you strip the horror out of it, Starship Troopers feels that.
Yeah,
to
totally.
me. So, and since we're already talking about it, adventure hooks for the war-torn adventurers. A squad is ordered to take out an enemy general. A team of spies goes behind enemy lines to capture a dangerous weapon. Adventurers defend their ship from a military boarding party while exploring contested space.
Yeah.
That's not Blade Runner.
No.
That's not the movie Alien.
Yeah.
That's not Battlestar Galactica. It's not Star Trek. So sci-fi isn't just sci-fi. Fantasy kind of tends to feel like fantasy. to me.
And this isn't sci-fi or fantasy.
It's
science fantasy.
It's science fantasy, with the space opera feel, like Star Wars.
I mean, like, I would say if there's any one science fiction, science fantasy, science something that Starfinder is kind of based on, it's Star Wars with more wizards. It's literally like, imagine just like there's way more Jedi and the Force is way more accessible. That's kind of where we're at.
It's funny you mentioned Star Wars because I swear to Christ, this is Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars.
Totally.
This is the best villain Star Wars has ever crapped out. Not the most popular, but the best.
So
you can see their influences.
We've got Into the Unknown, which is different from another one that comes later, which is weird. Into the Unknown is like that exploratory space, dark corners. This is Star Trek.
I see Stargate as well.
Oh, Stargate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Stargate, Star Trek, some adventurers walking into places and new cultures and new species that they never could have conceived of before.
Yeah. And also like the extra planar shit would go into this as well.
Then there is horror, which is
exactly what you expect.
Yeah. Science fantasy horror. So
I wasn't too terribly impressed with that one.
Well, to be fair, it could get a lot cooler than just a planet full of undead dudes. But a planet full of undead dudes is pretty cool.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the
Geb has its own planet.
Right. But imagine Geb has his own planet, but a faction of that planet said, "No, fuck you." And they took all of the ships, flew out into space, and they're like, "We're still gonna kill some living people, some meatbags."
Exactly. And Geb, the planet itself has created Eox, has created like synthetic meat that they can eat, and they're trying to play well with the Alliance.
Right.
But it's still pretty tenuous.
Those silly quicks and their
exactly. And then there's a bunch of other examples of horror too. So like cosmic horror and stuff like that. But
for sure,
again, to me, this rides up against weird fantasy.
Weird fantasy is pretty much what you expect. It's the Mos Eisley Cantina everywhere.
Exactly.
Just like, it's certain Pathfinder and D&D tables that complain about nobody ever plays a human. Everybody only ever plays the weird shit. And it's hard for me to be in that game. That's this section of the book right here. If you're not playing something weird, you're doing it wrong part of the book.
And it's interesting. I think it'd be actually better for players to play straight, to play the core races or ancestries and walk into a weird campaign because it creates a lot more contrast.
For sure. Have you ever seen Titan AE, the animated movie?
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's one of my favorite sci-fi movies ever. It's just a really, really, really cool space opera, and it's animated. But yeah, that's basically it. The main character is a human dude, and everybody else is a weird sort of fucking creature type. It's doing exactly what you just described.
Every single one of the pictures in the weird section has a brain-like, soft tissue, lots of round, spherical, squishy bits all put together. Yeah. Instead of other kind of themes.
They're all Metroid villains.
Exactly.
So that's kind of it for the what can you do with your genre?
That's a huge
space.
section. I was not expecting that
in
section.
A book this size.
Yeah, exactly.
That has crunch for half of it.
We're almost halfway through it too.
I know, right?
So next up, go ahead.
The next batch is like, okay, now that you know what your genre is, why don't I give you some actual set pieces that you can put in there, like Absalom Station. How many people
they call
are
the
there?
section Ports of Call.
Ports of Call. Yeah.
So we've got Absalom Station, which is
a level 20 settlement. So that's your big, bad center of the world.
It's 5 miles wide and like about 5 miles deep.
You know what else is 5 miles long? Babylon 5. So much of this book came out of that show, and it just makes me smile.
Yeah, because you're a big Babylon fan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's my favorite sci-fi TV series, and Titan AE is my favorite sci-fi movie.
Hell yeah. So next up, we have the Idari after Starfinder Station, which is... Okay, so...
An entire ancestry on a spaceship.
They're the Eldar.
They are.
They're the Eldar. Yeah. They left their planet. So their planet was
I think there's 2 Eldar in here. Continue.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. They left their planet. Oh, again, another good example of this is the fucking hooved humanoids from World of Warcraft, actually. World of Warcraft has a lot of sci-fi in it, like sci-space-fi.
Okay.
It's more fantasy than sci-fi, but like there's a civilization of hooved goat people that have like
satyrs from space.
They're like satyrs from space, but their beards are tendrils, and they're the good guys, and they worship the god of light, and they travel around the universe in light spaceships. Anyway, the point of this is the Eldari, the Idari is this mothership, this planet, not planet size, but big fucking ship. It's like almost moon-sized ship that this civilization escaped their planet from because they were all, the planet sucked, and they came to the Starfinder system hoping to find their own planet, but it turns out it was all populated, and they were basically given, they were allowed to become a part of the Alliance.
Yeah, and there's an old 80s sci-fi movie that was not good called Alien Nation.
Yeah.
And then they made a TV show based on it that was really fucking good.
Oh,
that
wow.
Nobody remembers under a certain age. And it's just, that's what this is. You know, they left whatever they left, and everybody left in their species. They're on that ship. And then they came to Earth, and now they have to, you know.
It's a world city.
It's a world city. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Eldar.
Yeah.
You called it.
Next up, we have the second city.
This
Tell me
was
about this
a
one, Eric.
weird one. They literally call this the port of call for visitors to the absurdity. So this is weird science. Great artwork here.
Yeah. There's
like multiple cities contained within a city. If you look at the artwork,
literal cities in a bottle.
Yeah, in a bottle, right?
Yeah.
I honestly don't have a lot to say about this one. I didn't spend a ton of time in it.
This one feels very like it's almost like a city that is a circus, a science fiction circus in so many ways. It's all over the place. It's crazy, and kind of dystopian.
Almost feels like the sci-fi area that the Wild Mage might occupy in fantasy D&D.
I couldn't really pin it down, if I'm being honest.
I couldn't either.
That's Starfinder fans, I hope you're here. I hope you're yelling at the comments, telling us what we're getting wrong and right.
Tell us what we're missing.
We are so new to this setting. I am really hyped for the Starfinder. I'm going to be playing a Starfinder campaign, hopefully. I'm really jazzed for it. I might run one. I might not. I might play in one. But I'm personally excited to make content for Starfinder because it looks really fucking cool.
We haven't talked about that yet. I want to pick your brain on that at some point. So that's that.
Next up is Starlance.
Starlance?
Yeah, that's the next city.
Oh, I skipped a city.
Yeah, it honestly.
This is the high-tech one.
The second city is literally just one page.
Yeah.
So Starlance is like the high-tech cyber
high-tech,
city.
luxurious spaceport.
To me, this is the cyberpunk city.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I remember reading through it, it has like a bunch of super corporations in it and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Alrighty. That's that. So I did not read this word for word.
Yeah,
I looked at every single page and probably got at least a quarter of the content on every page. So obviously we're glossing over this because this is the first impressions. That's it for the cities.
Yeah. Yeah.
We went through all the lore.
Cities.
Everything after this is basically crunch or,
I disagree.
Diet crunch.
Because factions, I wouldn't call factions diet crunch at all. Factions are a good page or two about the faction and then an archetype. So we still got a little bit of lore to keep going.
Okay. All right.
And I think the lore in the factions are almost more important than some of, like, I would say, because they include Abadar Corp and the Free Captains. Oh, they don't include, that's crazy. That's
what are they
crazy.
Missing? You got space pirates, you got space devils. What are we missing?
The fucking free company, the trade company, what is it called? The Aspis Consortium.
Yeah.
So the Aspis Consortium is its own, like, it's recognized by the Alliance as its own, like, country. Even though it's not a country, it's a corporation. It's the only corporation with that status. And that's because they helped so much during, like, a big war. And they were kind of given this, like, super, this, like, status as, like, a separate entity. So, like, every corporation building that's on a planet that is Aspis Consortium is like a, it's like
an embassy?
An embassy, exactly, on that planet for the Aspis Consortium. That doesn't have its own home planet.
That makes me think it's a big enough idea that they're going to have it in the core book.
That'd be sick.
So this is a
or
taster.
they have its own book.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of surprised because they have like Hellknights and stuff like that. They have Abadar Corp here. So the first one of the factions is Abadar Corp.
Are we skipping the backgrounds?
I was gonna, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eric.
One thing, I do not want to go through all of these. They grouped the backgrounds by genre. That's the only thing I want to point out.
Yeah.
Hey, players, we're going to play a dystopian sci-fi thing. Well, that means I'm not going to look at the backgrounds that are explorer backgrounds, fantasy backgrounds, high-tech fantasy, horror backgrounds. Oh, look, dystopian backgrounds. There's like 12 of them. I want Pathfinder to do that going forward. That's all I have to say.
I think that's a really great point, actually.
Ports of call backgrounds.
We get into the factions next.
Factions in the galaxy. Yay, artwork.
So these are obviously not countries, but groups of people and groups of ideas all
may
working
manifest.
under the same banner.
Yep.
Abadar Corp, the god Abadar, has his own kind of like the logical conclusion to Abadar, the god of wealth and cities, in a science fiction setting, that it's a corporation whose sole goal is to maximize profits. No, I'm kidding. It's to...
You just described the profits of Calistrade.
Exactly,
So, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, this is a faith-based corporation.
Yeah, faith-based corporation. But the whole point of Abadar Corp is to maintain law, civility, and like society throughout the multiverse, but specifically in the material plane, or now it's called the universe.
Trying to distill something like that historically has been really fucking hard because you have to have read everything. Otherwise, you're just guessing. In Pathfinder 2nd edition and now in Starfinder, you have edicts and anathemas that do the work for you.
There you go.
With just bite-sized sentence.
Hit him, Eric.
Abadar Core, edicts, engage in commerce, work hard. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm brand new to the setting. I've never rolled dice in my life. I know what to do. Anathema, steal or lie to the company. That just sounds so sinister to me. But that's the anathema. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Faith-based corporatization.
Super simple. And what I like about this, Abadar is lawful neutral, right? Notice how it's just lying to the company.
Right. The company.
Not to other companies.
Right.
It's like to our organization.
Yep. If you work for JP Morgan, you cannot have another job lined up for you before you go to work there.
Exactly.
They will fire your ass.
So that's Abadar Corp. It comes with an archetype. So before we jump into actual real crunchy player options, I just want to point out that I can't have an opinion. So they have stated that Pathfinder and Starfinder are compatible from a rules perspective.
Right. 100% compatible.
From a power perspective, it seems a little off because it sounds like the focus of the games, Pathfinder is martial focused, whereas Starfinder is ranged focused. And I find it really hard to believe that they can balance both of these games together, where you can take an archetype from Starfinder and go into Pathfinder, and it doesn't have to feel obviously appropriate in the setting, but mechanically it feels balanced within it. I understand that they can just take the mathematical system and port it over, but things like movement and resistance and stuff like that seems like if you brought some Starfinder stuff into Pathfinder, it would steamroll a bunch of options. For instance, we'll get to this, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but there's an ancestry where you can literally spend one action to change your shape.
Yes.
That's so powerful. It would have to have the rare tag in
like the Beastkin do, right?
Well, they can't even do it the same way. Their change shape is to anything. It could look anything, like anything. The Beastkin can only turn into their animal form or back to their human form, and they have to look like that human form. So to me, that's like a level of power. And because, in Pathfinder and in many TTRPGs, options equal power just as much as, physical numbers equal power. It's kind of like a lateral power instead of a vertical power. Because of that, I'm not going to comment too much on the archetypes because you can clearly see what they're trying to do mechanically, but I don't have the full picture yet. I haven't looked at the core rulebook.
That means we're going to save 30 minutes off of this video.
Yeah, well, yeah.
All right,
let's jump into Abadar Corp.
So Abadar Corp, each of these sections has the history, goals, structure, operations, resources, divisions, just categories, notable members within the organization, whatever it is, and then the archetype as well. And I love the names of the feats they're going with for Starfinder.
Yeah.
So much more than Pathfinder. It just, Abadar Core.
They have so many backgrounds. Dude.
Abadar Core rep dedication. According to my calculations, sales pitch, corporate speak. It's who you know. Do you know who I work for? That's a level 7 feat. maximize profits. It's the crunch meets lore, and that's what I've been craving for so long. They started doing that in Pathfinder, but historically, not so much.
It's definitely a design shift that we're seeing full swing.
Yeah.
In this pulpy kind of, Starfinder is very pulpy, and because of that, they can get away with these really fun names.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like Pathfinder has to take itself a little more seriously in some of its abilities, its ability namings. But we're seeing differences there now.
Interesting.
Nowadays. That's how I see it, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
I look at Starfinder as Gonzo space fantasy and Pathfinder as Gonzo fantasy. It's the Gonzo part that makes him kind of cartoony. And I don't know. But as far as naming conventions go, it's definitely a deliberate shift.
Absolutely.
You know, that's it's part of it's a branding shift.
It's a lot more lighthearted in so many ways.
Sure, yeah. Not so edgelord.
Oh, speaking of lighthearted and not edgelord, the symbol for the free captains.
Fucking love it.
Is so beautiful. We've got our cat with a cyborg left eye and his mouth on a knife. And that is the logo of the free captains, which are literal space pirates.
It's also on the special edition for this book.
Yes.
In pink.
It's so fucking cool, dude. Yeah. It's so fucking cool.
I love it.
So this is your, if you want to play Firefly, this is your.
Yep. Or Scum and Villainy from Star Wars.
Yeah, totally. This is your, this is it, baby.
Free captains, leaderless alliance of outlaws and pirates. Edicts, abide the Broken Rock oath. That's an oath that all of these people, space pirates, they all go by it. It's the Accords. Don't fucking break it. It's us against them. Anathema, betray an oath, betray your crew. And then it goes on. History, goals, structure, operations, resources, crews, notable members.
This is the Caden Kalian of factions.
Sure. I'm thinking Besmara. I think Besmara really comes into her own in Starfinder. I think she becomes like in the scale from demigod, hero god, demigod, intermediate god, greater god, blah, blah, blah. Besmara kind of jumped up a bit in Starfinder is my understanding. At least that's how it was in first edition. I don't know what it's like now. So pirates, they're more important to Starfinder than pirates are to actual Pathfinder, I think.
Absolutely. Because the seas are everywhere, if you will. Getting between going between planets is kind of like the equivalent of sailing the seas. Yeah,
and like Spelljammer and D&D, that was they're on literal ships. They're shaped like boats.
Ships in space, yeah.
Exactly. So it's nothing new under the sun, but we get a archetype.
The Space Pirate.
Space Pirate dedication, broadside charge, Pirates Parry, press gang the soul.
So Pirates Parry is a great example of
what do you got?
Feat. So you have to have the Space Pirate dedication that triggers an adjacent enemy attempts a melee strike against you. So we're using the same keywords here. You are wielding a gun and a melee weapon with the agile trait or phase cutlass. So this is phase cutlass. Obviously a
lightsaber.
Yeah, but it's specifically, my point here is that it's specifically a Starfinder exclusive kind of idea.
Sure.
But a parry trait is found in Pathfinder. You parry the triggering strike with your melee weapon, gaining a +2 circumstance bonus to AC against the attack. If the triggering strike is a critical failure, you may attempt a ranged strike against the triggered creature. This ranged strike does not trigger reactions from the target. So that's really important here. This to me reads as like a feat that could come straight out of Pathfinder, and it would make total sense. And I really like that. Like this is an example of an appropriate
That's part of the
feat.
compatibility.
Exactly. I just wanted to show an example of compatibility that really made sense.
And one of the other things I like that they kept from the presentation and the layout and presentation in Pathfinder is these are pirate. What I'm looking for, space pirates. What are they called?
Yeah, space pirates.
Space pirates. That's literally the name.
Yeah.
So these are space pirate specific archetypes, but they also give you that little list of additional feats that you can play that keeps the theme of the space pirate going. Even though you only have 1, 2, 3, 4 options within this archetype, you can still kind of fill it out, if you will, with the additional feat options. Menacing laughter from player core, quip from player core, and this is Pathfinder player core. Twin draw from player core, opening volley.
This isn't Pathfinder player core, is it? I'm pretty
All
sure
of
this
these
is.
are in Pathfinder.
Twin Draw is not. These are all player core, Starfinder player core, not Pathfinder.
There is no Starfinder player core.
They're referencing a book that hasn't been published yet.
I thought Twin Draw was a gunslinger thing. Way of the Pistolero doesn't have Twin Draw.
Maybe
I'll have to look it
does.
off screen.
Okay.
Because I recognize these names from somewhere, and I haven't read any player core for Starfinder yet.
Yeah, Paizo.
If I'm wrong, somebody
Where's
tell me.
our player core, Paizo? I know NoNat already got one.
They're
What
like,
the
be
hell?
patient.
They're not be patient. They don't love us. One day you'll love us. We'll have
I
enough
like that they kept
subscribers.
the Hellknights.
Dude, I fucking love this photo of the Hellknights. They are so fucking cool.
They're Cylons. There's no two ways about it. It's
Dude.
like Boba Fett and Cylons
Yeah,
had a baby.
Boba Fett Cylons.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Boba Cylon Fett. I'm really happy with the edicts and anathema. Did you read those? Did anything stand out
Read
to you?
it.
So Hellknights, infernally bound enforcers of law. Edicts, live by the measure in the chain. Protect the weak. Suppress rebellion, uphold the law. Anathema, forsake the law. These guys go around protecting the weak.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a Hellknight thing? And I just didn't know it all this time?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So this is like a change in Hellknights.
Yeah.
An evolution of how Hellknights operate.
It's taking what is traditionally a super moral paradigm from Pathfinder and saying, let's stick a little bit of ethical in this. It can't be completely about the morality. So that slight ethical twist really made me happy.
We're going to protect
nuance.
the weak, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Which is exactly what they're saying.
So headquarters, mobile citadels. I love that idea. They're just floating around in their own citadels.
Yep.
They don't have like bastions on planets.
Yep.
Just wherever they go, that's where the forces are.
They feel very Space Marine also.
Sure, yeah. You know, Chaos Marines?
Like Watch Fortress. No, actually, like the opposite.
The opposite?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like this enforcement of the law and what the rules are, regardless of the collateral damage and stuff like that.
Hell Knight, dedication. Okay, we get it. Disperse. Infernal bulwark. Infernal armaments. Unleash hell. Feat level 14.
Pretty cool.
I love these names. The Hell Knight orders. I forget what the orders were in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
But I feel like there were more of them than there are now.
Order of the Claw, Order of the Chain, Order of the Spike. They're all like that.
Yeah. But here it says there are 4, and I don't know if that means there's not going to be any more.
They've
been
probably
reduced
just got
to 4?
consolidated, yeah.
Maybe. So they have Order of the Chain. They punish lawbreakers. Order of the Crucible. They test civilizations. Order of the Eclipse. They control dangerous information. And Order of the Pyre. They purge subversive media with fire.
I would love to play in a game of Starfinder where we're all Hell Knights.
That would be more interesting than a game of Pathfinder where we're all Hell Knights for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Especially like the second one where you're testing a civilization or you're clamping down on media that's not appropriate.
Or like Space Cowboys, the movie. We're all
never seen it.
We're all ex Hell Knights.
Okay.
And then we're getting the band together again. And we have to get back into our old armor that's sitting away in the attic.
That's cool.
That would be
that
rad.
Would be really, really rad.
The next group is the Knights of Golarion. This is sort of your
guys.
These are like the typical chivalric knight ethos, going out to do good and aligning yourself with leaders that want to do good, and you are their muscle.
Edicts and anathemas, Eric.
Let's see. Order of Galactic Protectors and Idealists. Edicts. Fight tyranny. Yay. Anathema. Harm an innocent. Yay.
Well, the good guys.
They're super vanilla and generic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
even the weapon.
Badass cyber paladin over here and this fucking Thrycreen looking motherfucker with like
La Shunta, baby. La Shunta.
That's
Oh no, that's a Shirin.
Yeah, they're Shirin. The like this is Pharasma. Sharon Ray is fuck on the right, and this is Iamadi on the left. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I love the art. Like they both look badass, but they're pulled straight out of the fantasy. This faction is very science fantasy.
It's very Shining Lands of the Starfinders.
Exactly. Shining Kingdoms.
Shining Kingdoms.
Yeah.
A Knight of Golarion devotes their life to justice, honor, and the preservation of lost Golarians' cultures.
Yeah. While
not all members worship Iamade, all uphold her values and practice them in their actions. Feat names: Knight of Golarion dedication, Iomede's shield, Iomede's sword, Iomede's helm, Iomede's barrage. Are you seeing a pattern here? It's I just love how just sort of like, no, we do this one thing. No, we do this one thing.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the counter Hell Knight in a funny way to me. So that's that. I've got nothing else to say about them. Starfinder Society. Who didn't see this coming?
Yeah. We got a little baby rat on the next, a little rat person.
Yep.
We got a nerd on the next page.
Nerd on the next page.
Looking like he's got
End quote.
He's got a beanie on.
Nerd with a beanie.
Look at this cricket nerd with a beanie. Starfinder Andrew Zizensky. They're the archaeologists. I'm hoping that we get a Starfinder, Lost Omens Starfinder Society guide, just on the Starfinder Society, because I think it would have a lot more.
That'd be rad to have that entire line continue in Starfinder.
It would have a lot more weight to it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Starfinder Society, adventurers exploring the stars.
Edicts and
Super
Anathemas.
generic stuff.
Hit us.
Explore, report, cooperate. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That's the edicts. Anathema, betray, deface, destroy. Enough said.
Yep.
They have, again, history, goals, structure, operations, resources. If that's the sort of categorization that's useful to you as a GM, buy the book. As a player, buy the book.
What I think is really interesting about these is that they are, the archetypes are really short. Much shorter than what you expect from archetypes from Pathfinder. And I think that's because they want you to be able to take these archetypes and also take other archetypes later. Like these to me read very much as a sprinkle in so that the whole party feels cohesive, less than, I'm an acrobat and I'm taking the acrobat stuff to be good at acrobats. This is literally, they're faction archetypes and they've designed them specifically so that players can have the faction archetype, be a part of the faction, and then do their own thing as well.
I think, did they do the same thing with the Lost Omens character guide for Pathfinder? Because I remember those were like lacking.
This feels more
in depth.
This feels more intentional.
Okay.
Because they've learned a lot more about the game.
Sure.
And how to balance it. Yeah, when Starfinder came out, they were testing a bunch of new ideas in game design. So far, this feels a lot more like they've taken the ideas that they've established in Pathfinder and they've refined them in Starfinder.
Okay.
So instead of being an exploratory text from a game design perspective, this is feeling more like proof. Like if they got to start all over again, how would they do things differently?
Oh,
that's
God, I would love that.
That's what's feeling like to me.
And I'm glad it was this way rather than the other way around because I want a super sophisticated, fun sci-fi gonzo setting.
They really needed to do it right for anyone to pick it up. And I feel like they're really beginning to do it
Starfinder
right.
fans are diehards from first edition.
I love
They're
it,
like
man.
ride or die.
Yeah, they are ride or die. I mean, it's one of those niches where if you really like this specific kind of this specific flavor of chocolate, you heard your name from
where to
across the
shop
room.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's on its own, it's very unique. There aren't very many other TTRPGs or even science fiction that is Starfinder the way Starfinder is.
I have a list in my notes I want to go over at the end. It's just really quick. Basically, the different sci-fi games that are out there that I like and how they're all different. And the point of that list is you can play every single one of those in Starfinder if you pick the right planets and you pick the right subgenre. And you're just careful about your choices.
Xeno Wardens.
The Xeno Archaeologist is the Pathfinder or Starfinder Society.
Yeah.
You yearn to uncover the secrets of the past. You rely on your wits, training, and a fair share of luck during expeditions. Xeno Archaeologist dedication. Don't touch that. I love how it's a reaction.
Yeah.
Ready for trouble. Byzantine linguistics. Statistical anomaly. Nerd. Moving on to Xeno Wardens. Xeno Wardens are the order of conservationists.
They're the druid order.
They're the druids in space, which is cool because space is void.
Yeah.
What role do druids play in space?
Well, if life is rare, they try to preserve life, the rare life that exists on planets.
Yeah, and it's like, in my brain, it's the flip. Like, the pirates were less so in Pathfinder and more so in Starfinder. The druids were more so in Starfinder and less so in Pathfinder and less so in Starfinder. That's kind of, where do you grow green things besides Mars?
Edicts.
Edicts. Protect planetary ecosystems, anathema, exploit or harm nature. Super
Pretty
vanilla, super
straightforward.
predictable.
But
and
like
everybody's wearing green because
they're
druids.
all druids, cyber druids. They got plants.
Cyber druids.
They got plants growing out of their computers, Eric. They're cyber druids.
Oh, Okay, I thought that was a virus.
They have an elf-looking motherfucker with a leaf gun.
Yeah, he's got rat facial hair too.
I think
I'm curious to see how they mix the primal, the occult, the arcane, the divine in ways that just don't come across as kind of trying too hard with the sci-fi.
Exactly.
So
this is a hard thing to get right.
Xenodruid, that's kind of a cool concept, xenobiology.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
From the druid lens, you've learned to connect with the immense vital powers of planets where life forms evolved and flourished. Xenodruid dedication at 4th level. Planetary bond, galactic bond, planetary reincarnation. And that's it for the archetypes. After that, we have a section on minor factions.
They put the Aspis Consortium in here. That's
they did, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, they didn't give it its own thing, just a small thing. Akashic Society, Scholars of Universal Knowledge. Aspis Consortium, Notorious Syndicate with a sterling reputation.
But they're like fucking... Okay, let me just... Real quick. The Aspis... They're part of the alliance, the System Alliance. They are their own country. And I find it odd that they're considered a minor faction here. I don't know. That's weird to me.
Yeah.
Go on. The Corpse Fleet.
Have anything to say one way or the other on that? To be continued. So what is a minor faction? The galaxy is home to a host of smaller corporations, smaller factions, and other smaller groups that also vie for power and influence, whatever that means. We move on to the Corpse Fleet, an armada of undead supremacists. I love that.
Yeah, so basically when the undead world became a part of the Alliance, they had a bunch of people who were like, no, we still fucking hate these living people. Yep. They broke off, and that's the thing that Eric was talking about before.
Yeah, and their edicts and anathemas are they're inverse of the Eox. So for these guys, the undead supremacists, edict, reclaim Eox, subjugate the living, anathema, submit to death or aid the living.
Yeah,
that's Geb.
Yeah,
that's what you do as a responsible citizen
evil
in Pathfinder.
Guys.
Yeah. Deep Cultures Institute. It's a college of solar researchers. Eyes Wide Agency, a holistic detective agency. Love that. That's Edgewatch in space.
Yeah.
Frozen Trove, a notorious draconic biotech firm. Mechanized Adherents of Apotheosis, a cult of forced mechanization. Skyfire Legion, draconic fraternity of mercenaries. The Stewards, protectors of the Pact. Something German. Zeiserer Munitions, Corrupt Munitions Corporation. It looks a little HHEcky. And Zoe, with an exclamation point, media. A cult of personality and media.
Fucking love this. Undead. He's like an undead film producer and TV producer. One guy.
Yep.
It's Zoe Media.
He's a cult of personality and media megacore. Edicts. Adore Zoe. Produce popular media. Anathema. Defame Zoe.
That's it.
It's like American politics right now. Moving on.
I love it. It's hilarious.
And this wouldn't be complete without an alien catwalk, double spread piece of art.
Oh, yeah.
We got ourselves a fashion show in space.
I love the brain person with a hat on the brain.
Yeah.
So good. So this spread's showing all of the alternate ancestries.
Yeah.
So all of these ancestries are alternate ancestries or extra ancestries that you won't find in the core book.
Right. And they're weird. Every single one of them.
Yeah, they're supposed to be. You know what I mean? They're the Again, it's the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide.
Yeah, but even that one, they had like Tengu, I think. They had Hobgoblin. They had sort of like staples of fantasy.
They did not.
What are the ancestries in that one?
So they had expanded. So they expanded other ancestries, right? This is where they included uncommon ancestries. So, like the dual ancestry. This is where they invented that or introduced it. And then new ancestries, android, aphorite, beastkin, fetchling, fleshwarp, gonzi, geniekin, kitsune, sprite, strix. So to me, this is like...
Half of those are like Pathfinder staples in terms of like, we know what they are before we play them.
That's only because we've played Pathfinder a bunch. But from a fantasy trope perspective, most of these are like super niche cases. All of the ancestries found in here are ancestries that are found in the home solar system of Golarion. Like, there's a whole planet of dragon people. This is where you play the dragon people ancestry.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So
to me, this is a far more important to build out this this for me, this is far more important so that you can build out a whole solar system and really play a character from any part of the core solar system that you expect.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did the weird shit in this book as opposed to the core.
Yeah.
Oh. So
Astrazoan, talk about leading with a fucking right hook.
Yeah, these are the shape changers. Robert was talking about it, and they turn their stomachs inside out to projectile vomit onto people.
Yeah, they're flesh bag, body horror transformation ancestry.
Yep.
They can change shape.
Malleable bodies take new forms.
One shape, or one action rather, to change shape.
Yeah.
Just, to me, kind of a little busted.
And if you can see that piece of artwork right there, that one.
Yeah.
It's a gruesome shape changing process.
So imagine like a starfish, a Cthulhu starfish with a stomach on its back. That's kind of what they are in their normal form, but almost always they're taking the form of another ancestry.
Yeah, just a chocolate starfish that's spitting out hot dog flavored water.
What a way to put it. So again, I'm not going to talk too much about the balance here because I don't know the system. We haven't seen the core book.
There are a lot of feats to choose from.
It's a full ancestry. So that's important to talk about. This is a full ancestry. You get 4 or 5 feats for every odd level, basically, which is peak. I mean, this is a full ancestry.
Not every odd level. It jumps from 1 to 5, it looks like.
Well, yeah, that you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
They're ancestry
it's only
feats.
odd levels.
They only happen on odd levels. So it's 1, 5, 9, 13, and 17.
Looks like it. Yep.
Next up, we have the Contemplative. Okay, these are, again, we're not getting any more normal, guys.
So the Contemplative. This is Mother Brain from Metroid territory for me.
Yes, literally.
These are basically the small bodies, big brains, and everything is super intellectual, but we are also in a system that has magic. So these guys use magic and technology to do crazy fucking things. And that's kind of what they are. That's their shtick.
They literally live in the planet that's closest to the sun, underground, in like super brain pools of brainiacs braining up, thinking.
They don't do physical labor anymore because they're all sort of like in these underground ancestral bunkers.
They literally levitate themselves around.
Yep.
So again, it's like speed 5 feet, hover, or fly 20 feet. That's their base speed.
Yeah.
Fitting this into Pathfinder, this is where I'm beginning to be like, guys, what are we doing?
Yep.
If you can fly from first level, that's supposed to be a 7th level thing minimum. So again, just take what they say, take what Paizo says about
they're going to have
a
the player core book and the GM core. They're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah.
So what is a contemplative? Shaped by countless generations' pursuit of mental self-perfection, contemplatives have huge brains, equally suited to math and magic. Their natural telekinesis propels them through the air as their measured curiosity drives them to discovery and innovation. If you are a contemplative, you might, and this language is familiar because we have it in the Pathfinder book, you might overcomplicate challenges, often just to test your abilities and hypotheses. You might dislike pointless noise and mayhem that distracts you from deeper thought. You might dedicate yourself to mastering some great mystery, magical tradition, or field of study. Hi, Eldar. You might refer to yourself as we, not I. Others probably assume you know almost everything about anything. Others probably are reticent to voice their thoughts around you, believing you'll relentlessly lecture them or question their epistemological foundation. Well, brain. Actually.
What I love is
the frontal lobe.
Their eyes, they don't have eyes, but they see from their brain. So when they put on visors and shit, like there's a photo of a contemplative holding a giant rocket launcher and their like visor, their targeting visor is just stuck on their brain.
Yeah.
So imagine a giant brain, for those listening, imagine a giant brain the size of like a person because they're small or medium sized, right? They're medium. Jesus Christ. So imagine a brain the size of a person with like a small sized creature dangling from this floating medium sized brain.
Yeah. And I think that's why they have a speed of 5. They spend all their time on the ground, like trying not to topple over.
Yeah. Or the speed of 20 flying.
Yeah.
And their speed of 5 is hovering. So they're basically like floating right above the ground.
Oh, you're right. That is a hover speed. Okay. So there is no walking speed.
Yeah. They don't have.
They only hover. Wow. Why do they? Oh, okay. They're shriveled.
Yeah, they're like tiny little bodies.
Others probably treat you as a fragile oddity, assuming you're unable to perform simple tasks with your vestigial anatomy.
Because you're not. No, seriously. So if you wield a bulk 2 weapon or bigger, you get clumsy 1.
Yeah. One of their things is called atrophied. Yeah. Your limbs are atrophied. Decrease your maximum and encumbered bulk limits by 1. Exactly what you said.
Yep.
So, and they have thought sense and limited telepathy. This is already so itself. I hate throwing the word unique around. It's so itself compared to any other ancestry I can remember in Pathfinder.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else comes close.
And then
to this.
hard left turn, Dragonkin.
Okay, this one's cool. So this is
it, Eric?
It is, and I'm going to tell you why, because I do have a bit of a background in cinematic science fiction. So I understand the tropes and I see what they were doing here.
Okay, lay it on me, Eric.
All right. So Dragonkin. Dragons typically fill that spot in fantasy where they are greedy, they hoard. They are apex predators. They're typically, really old, really hard to hurt. They're either super smart or they're beasts. They're these major, almost godlike creatures in a sense.
Apex predators.
Yeah, they're like Mary Sue's in a sense, with blind spots. But these fucking guys, Dragonkin, they are draconic in appearance and fiercely loyal. Already, it's different. Dragonkin are deeply empathic beings capable of forming nearly unbreakable spiritual bonds with one other creature, which manifests in telepathic communication and tactical synergy. This feels like summoner territory for me, but as the primary character.
No polyamory here, baby.
Right?
Monogamists only.
So Dragonkins, as a general rule, they prioritize bonded partners' needs and wants.
Right.
They share feelings with everyone around them. They might trust their instincts more than they trust established facts. Super intuitive. I feel like Chewbacca was inspiration for this from Star Wars. I feel like Deanna Troi and Loxana Troi from Star Trek were inspiration for this. The idea of the empath, the loyal person, the putting their body in front of their best friend and a laser blast. That's this. But it's Dragonkin. It's not a fuzzy space teddy bear kind of ancestry. It's fucking dragon. But they kind of said, yeah, but. And there's a few other ancestries that do the yeah, but. And it was a super hard turn on that.
The Paizo, yeah, but. The Paizo twist.
So others probably are intimidated by you. Others probably underestimate the strength of your bond with your partner. Others probably find it disconcerting when you and your partner act in perfect unison. We decided not to go into the feats too deeply, but I do want to point out that a lot of these feats involve being adjacent or near to the person you select, very much like an investigator.
Yep.
Your bonded person, and then being able to like react and protect and take a bullet for them.
It's like teamwork feats.
Yeah, very very similar to that. But it's okay. That's that. So there's like 4 or 5 pages worth of feats that have that as a major theme.
Yeah. But they really hammer hard on that theme.
Yeah. So that was kind of my selling on that. Dragonkin, it could have gone super cheesy. It could have gone super vanilla. But they said, well, wait a minute. What if we make them just sort of like community people that are so attached to the people that they care for that immediately there's a scientific transference of information between the two. Yeah. And that I thought that was a cool space fantasy thing to do. Next up is fish people. Yeah, Kalo. This is the other Eldar I was referring to.
They're in my okay. So because I've been with Paizo, I've been along Paizo's journey for so long. When I saw water fish people, I knew exactly where they were going, and unfortunately or fortunately, they hit all the same heads. They focused on fluidity and emotions and harmony and all that stuff. And to me, it just seems uninspired, but that's only because it's uninspired, not from basic fantasy, but from what Paizo has done in the past with their tropes. Does that make sense? It's like uninspired within their own niche. Yeah. And I can't really complain about that because outside of their own publishing, this is a cool, unique ancestry.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying
I think I agree more than I disagree with that.
Okay.
So yeah, let's blow through this and kind of fumble our way through it, because this feels almost like a 1-for-1 with a couple of different sci-fi examples I can think of. So what is a Kalo? A Kalo. I don't know how you say it. Kalos hail from a watery moon orbiting Brotheta, which is really close to another video game company we know. These aquatic humanoids have art and creativity at the center of their culture, and they employ fluid fighting styles in combat.
Surprise.
These are super militaristic, but they do it in a form over function kind of way.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Eldar all over this place.
Really?
Yeah, the aspect warriors, they fight fluidly in accordance with their specific aspect. It's almost like changing stances in Pathfinder.
Yeah, I would just say
that's the vibe I was getting.
What
were you thinking?
And art. Yeah, no, actually, yeah, they're totally Eldar.
Yeah. These are the other Eldar I was referring to.
Yeah, they're totally Eldar. Yeah.
You can't unsee it now, can you?
Yeah, they're totally
so
Eldar.
if you're a Kalo,
Water Eldar, yeah.
You might be inspired by exploring the beauty of nature. You might make friends in unexpected places. You might personalize your equipment as a means of self-expression. That I like. Others probably ask you for style advice. Okay. Others probably assume you're out of your element on land. Others probably fear your martial prowess. I like the idea of, I am a ballet dancer, so I can do wonderfully poetic things with my form. Also, if I kick you in the face, you are dead because of my leg strength that I hone and train every day. I can snap your neck with a kick.
Growing up, one of my best friends, his name is Marquel.
Mm-hmm.
He's a gay ballet dancer and contemporary dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And also someone I sparred with regularly because we did martial arts together. I literally taught him martial arts growing up. Yeah, that motherfucker can kick.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's insane how strong these people are.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course the Aezerketi. They're Aezerketi in space.
Yeah, they are.
That's what they are.
They're Aezerketi.
They even have the hydration requirement. Yeah. Your body requires you to return to aquatic environments or to don armor with environmental protections, at least one in a 24-hour period. They're Aezerketi Eldar. Yeah. That's how I read them.
There you go. Up next are the Scorsesian, the followers of Scorsese.
Someday I will come for you for a hyperdrive.
Yeah. So imagine super thin, lithe, elf-looking motherfuckers that have butterfly wings made of light. They're large-sized, though.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't notice that until after I had read this entry a couple of times, and I went, oh, wow.
Wait, what?
Because you can't tell. All the images of them are in space or next to...
But no, they're like 8 feet tall, 9 feet tall as fuck, and they got giant butterfly wings made of light.
Scorsesians are natural... How do you say that? Sarkeesians. Sarkeesians are natural spacefarers who glide through the void of space on butterfly wings of energy and light.
So they're...
Through space.
Native to...
No suits.
Yeah, they're native to the...
Diaspora?
What?
Diaspora? There's
a ring of asteroids. Yeah, exactly. There's a ring of asteroids around the solar system, and that's where they're native to because they hop between the asteroids.
Yeah. Yeah, those asteroids used to be 2 moons that got blown to shit.
Got it.
And these guys are just kind of still there.
Got it.
Dreaming of the old days. If you are a Sarkeesian, you might feel a deep connection to home, regardless of how often you pay it a visit. You might make friends easily, but avoid positions of power. I thought that was intriguing. You might enjoy stargazing and appreciate the serenity of space. Wah. Others probably assume you can survive in space indefinitely and question why your wings aren't always visible. I chuckled at that. They might consider you irresponsible or flighty because they're kind of fae-like in a sense.
Yeah.
Space fae. They might appreciate your positive outlook and easygoing attitude. These guys are fucking butterfly space hippies. That's how
they also have like hilariously long Adamohundra necks. So one of the best rock climbers in the world, his name's Adamohundra. He's a tall motherfucker that has a very long neck. Actually, one of the reasons why he's so good at rock climbing is because of his long neck. When he's like on a face and he leans back, his neck leans back, it actually creates more. Obviously, this isn't the only reason. He's just like an incredible climber and he's trained his whole life and he's just an incredible person. But also he has a hilariously long neck and we all make fun of him for it.
You know what else this is? This is whoever designed this is their wish fulfillment on what they wish libertarians were like.
Oh, really?
In actuality. Sarkeesians are free-spirited libertarians who value their personal independence, but don't feel the need to enforce their opinions on others. It's that was a finger in the eye, and I love it.
So the Vlaka, these are your dog people.
They're werewolves in space.
They're not werewolves. They're just wolf people. They're your furries in space.
Yeah.
Ladies and gents, if you're a furry and you wear the furry suit and you're probabilistically you're wearing a wolf furry suit, here's your ancestry. We got it for you.
Vlakas are wolf-like nomads whose thick fur coats help them survive in the frigid cold, as it is on their home world of Lajok. They have an incredible sense of smell and are often born deaf, blind, or deaf-blind. So these guys kind of, they make your GM present scenes in different ways. And I think that's a really cool challenge to have one of these guys at the table.
They're like Mr. Miyagi meets like the blind samurai.
Sure.
In so many ways.
Yeah. And also Twilight Imperium, there was a wolf-like grouping of people that lived on asteroids, and the asteroids kind of fly throughout space. And that's kind of, what they did. It felt like the people who wrote this book watched a lot of Babylon 5 and they played a lot of Twilight Imperium before they went to the computer. Because I'm seeing like combinations of both of those all over this place. So if you're playing a Vlaka, what is it you might do? Well, you might identify people and their emotions by scent. That was interesting. They might listen more than they speak. They might go out of their way to help others.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
Others probably depend on you for guidance and meditation. Mediation. They probably assume you'll agree to help them whenever they ask, and they probably try to exploit your kindness, generosity, and helpfulness. That's another bit of projection. What were you going to say?
Oh, mechanically speaking, the way sensory diversity works is you always have a scent, an imprecise scent. And then if you're blind, you gain hearing as a precise sense with a range of 90 feet, meaning you can hit things. So it's a debuff, but it's also like not a debuff.
Yeah, it's a distribution of buffs.
Yeah.
A redistribution of buffs.
From like base, as Eric said, from a basic sensory perspective, if you're deaf, and you gain read lips feet for free. And if you're deaf-blind, you're blind and deaf, your scent becomes a precise sense within 90 feet rather than an imprecise sense within 60 feet. And hearing and sighted, you don't gain any of the additional senses.
Yep, function over form.
Yeah.
And
so I think that was like actually a really cool way to do it. Like using the imprecise and precise tags as a way to get around that, I think is fucking sick. And I would honestly love playing one of these just as like an exercise in role playing and like empathy. You know what I mean? I think it would be really interesting.
These guys have my favorite sort of backstory of all the ancestries presented in this book. It's just funny. They're living on a planet that has a dying sun, so their days are numbered. And it's not post-apocalyptic or anything like that. They're just like, okay, here we go. This is happening. We've made our peace as an ancestry, and the sun's gonna die, and we're just going to continue to be Zen until we get there. And then something happened, and the sun rekindled. It's not going to die anymore. So all these, begats and begats and begats and begats, they all the generations just waiting to die. All of a sudden, they're not going to anymore. The planet's good. The sun's good now. And that was just a really interesting, like a good bait and switch. Now you have a whole bunch of people that are culturally kind of groovy and zen and helpful for
chill
others.
As fuck, fam.
Yeah, I mean, all of their feats are about biting people, but they're kind of like they bite people on your behalf. You know,
they bite unchill dudes.
Yeah, but they're wrestling with the notion that we all expected to be dead soon, and now we're not. What do we do with that? Do we just be dicks all of a sudden? Let's be like wolves. No, they're not doing that.
What do you do with newfound hope?
Yeah. First, identify it. So that's Vlaka.
That's the end of the book.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Pink. That means we've reached the end.
Yeah.
And it comes with a big old map.
Yep. It's hard to understand, but because it's 3D and on the 2D space.
I think this is a book I would rather have as a PDF than a physical book. At the end of the day, I want my cores to be physical. I want my my monster stuff and my player supplements. I want all that shit to be physical on my shelf. My Lost Omen series, I want those in physical form. But this sort of thing feels like something I'd be happy to have on my iPad and just scroll through as needed.
Absolutely.
I don't know how often I would even use it, except as inspiration, as a player, as a GM. I would just want to reference the Ancestries, and that's probably it. Everything else in the book I kind of already have down. If I was a brand new GM, that first intro section on how to do subgenres and how to choose your set pieces based on that decision, it's worth it for that. But if you've already been there and done that with different genres within fantasy, within sci-fi, within horror, within romance, within westerns, anything, then you kind of already know it. And this book isn't necessarily valuable. It's just fun because artwork, because archetype concepts, because fun feat names, and just sort of like this is a ticket to the show more so than a textbook to use going forward. For the rest of the
I feel
campaign.
like if you're new to Starfinder, you have to buy this book.
Think so? Okay.
Yeah. If you're new to Starfinder, absolutely buy this book.
I think the first 20 pages or so.
Or as a player or a DM.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not new to Starfinder, if you've been playing Starfinder already, just use Archives of Nethys to find the Ancestries that you probably already have access to. I'm going to guess all of the Ancestries in this book already exist in first edition.
Sure, but the lore bits don't.
Well, some of them do.
I'm sorry, not first edition. I was talking about Archives of Nethys.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of the lore bits are also on Archives of Nethys too, right?
Okay.
A lot of those entries.
All right.
A lot of those description entries are already in there. My point is like, if you already know the setting, don't buy this book. But if you're new to the setting at all, I highly recommend you buy the book because it's this book plus a 20 or 30 minute video on the history of the Starfinder setting on YouTube is all you need to run a game and actually have concrete examples in universe of where and who and like what you're oriented as. I loved the intro section about the different genres of ways to run the game. I found that I would find that incredibly useful as a DM trying to run a game of Starfinder.
Yeah. I also like the chronological series of events as they happened over the 250-year period, because there have been a number of adventure paths that have happened since the beginning of first edition.
Exactly.
And all of those had a fallout and repercussions that blow forward. Their
like
butterfly
they do in
effects.
every adventure path.
Exactly.
And this is kind of them taking everything that happened and tying it in a bow. I guarantee, I'm not sure because I'm not familiar with Starfinder. I'm not pretending to be, but the birth of that star or that new
the Elder God.
That was either an adventure path or that's the kickoff for second edition.
Yeah.
That's the big, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
One of the
I
two.
think that was exactly that, because it was in Starfinder Society, I think, when that was getting cooked up. But that was one of those Tyrant's Grasp end of first edition kind of things.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it isn't that it happened. The value in this book is it happened. Everybody knows it who doesn't have the book. But if you had the book, you know what the repercussions are.
Right.
You know how it affects all the different planets in the setting at this point, because these new things are happening. You know, the psychic phenomena that are just bing, 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 ricocheting throughout the galaxy, near space and beyond. That stuff you're not going to get on Archives of Nethys. You know, the sense of time and place you're not going to get on Archives of Nethys. Archives of Nethys is wonderful for the crunch, but understanding the setting is not something you can get from Archives of Nethys. It's something you get from these books. My question at the end of the day is, do I pay $20 for the PDF or 50 or 60 for the hardcover?
Right.
This one's a PDF for me. I love this book, but I don't think it's a $50 book.
That's fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
Well, Goblins, thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Yep.
Appreciate your time. I like this book. I think you should go pick it up, especially if you're new to the setting. Expect more Starfinder stuff from us, I think, in the future.
I hope so. I'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always,
keep it weird.
Keep it weird, like a brain person.
Chocolate starfish and hot dog flavored water weird.